Okay guys, so today we're going to do something a little different. We usually have just our program come and we have the same person all day. This time we want to start out 2020 with our own members kind of sharing their knowledge and talking to us about everything. So we're going to start out with Kristine. Where's Kristine? She's coming. When Kristine's done with her presentation, we're going to play a little game before we have a little break. So I'm going to introduce to you, Kristine is our newsletter and publicity chairperson, and her second book came out in the fall. In the fall, it's the Eden Falls series. She has co-authored 2 award-winning books, and so she's going to talk to us today about co-authoring. So y'all give her a big round of applause.
Okay, so have any of you had your very, very best friend, and maybe you're going off to college, and we're going to live together, we're going to be best friends, and it's going to be wonderful. And by about Christmas, you want to burn his or her clothes in the courtyard. Are you sure you want to do this? That's a little bit what co-writing is. So I'll tell you a little bit how I got started. Oh, up closer. Sorry. I started out writing, and I'm trying to embrace this writing. If Mike Akins laughs, I hope he falls and bonks his head. Gerard Butler fan fiction. Good job, thank you, because he did the first time I told him. And really was kind of silly, but we were having our second teenage, so it was our first because we didn't do the groupie fangirl things. But it was very creative because one person would write a scene and the next one would just follow up behind it. There was no planning. There wasn't any plotting out. You had to feed off of what the person in front of you wrote. So it really got your creative juices flowing. And there were 3 of us that thought, hey, we could do this. And when we finally decided to write a novel, we probably collectively had 500,000 words done. That's a lot of books. Doesn't necessarily translate into novel writing. So when you decide to co-write with somebody, at some point in the process, you're going to be one of these people. And the trick is not to always be the one in the wagon. Okay, some of the great things about writing with a friend is it is fun. You get together and you brainstorm, and if you're in even critique groups and you're passing around ideas, creativity feeds creativity, and you're bouncing stuff off the walls and, hey, what if we do this, and then we'll have them do that, and oh, and then we get to throw in the romantic scene, and or maybe then, the killer jumps out of the woods, or whatever it is. And it's great fun as you're doing it together. You always have somebody that will tell you, no, that's a bad idea, or that's a great idea. You always have a ready sounding board. Sometimes when you're sitting there talking to your significant other over supper, you look over and their eyes are just glazed. They have no clue what a story arc, your third act, or the protagonist is. They just kind of, okay, whatever, honey. So you always have somebody that you can bounce the ideas off of. Again, you have a built-in critique group. You don't have to go find your circle. They're there. You write your 500 words and you send it off and they send it back, hopefully. There is a shared responsibility and workload unless somebody's in the wagon. Motivation and hold each other accountable. When it's really working, if I'm doing my 1,000 words a day, it kind of pushes your partner to do, or You know, when they're emailing me rough drafts, and I'm sitting there going, okay, well, it's 10:30 at night, I better do something before I go to bed tonight. You have that going for you. And the bonding. Nobody understands, like another writer, what it's like to have that idea click over. You know, when Rick announced this summer that he got his contract with Fox Press, his mom was excited for him. His friends were excited for him. His writer friends. Yeah. Because we know that feeling of getting to the next level. And when you're writing with a partner, there's somebody that really gets the celebration. Your loved ones are happy for you, but somebody knows on a gut level what you're going through. The not so positives. Different styles and work methods. The little red hen syndrome. There's a whole lot of I'll just do it myself. It happens. Or, you know, I go back to the second slide with somebody's in the wagon. Okay, I'll go ahead and pluck the corn. I'll go ahead and plant the corn. I'll pick the corn. I'll grind the corn. But all the names are the same size on the cover. That gets old, and it gets old quick. On artistic differences, and this is one where in my group, I have to take these off because I can't see. We ran into this hard and fast. We thought as writing in fan fiction and sort of round robin back and forth that, oh well, our writing styles are really similar, but we never tried to blend them. It was just sort of episodic writing. And because we were kind of writing the same story and in the same universe, we didn't notice the stark differences until we started writing as a novel. And from chapter 1 to chapter 2, it needs to sound like the same person. And I didn't care what color the sofa was in the living room. I have a writing partner who wants to tell you the thread count. So we ran into that a great deal. It doesn't matter if you self-publish, whatever, you are going to have an author platform and all of that. And your different styles of dealing with your readership are going to come into play. When you're with somebody, when you're co-writing, you kind of have to have a unified approach, kind of like raising kids. We can argue over something when the kids aren't here, but when we're facing the kids, we're a united front. Changing visions and goals. I was probably the biggest change in my writing, in my co-writing. About halfway through, I realized I don't just want to co-write. I want to write on my own. I really want to get better at this. I don't want it to just be a hobby. I was looking beyond a 3-book series. And my co-writers weren't. They were at different points in their life. They were at different jobs and different professions. They weren't looking past. I changed. And it greatly affected the writing relationship. There's more. When you're writing with somebody who you consider a good friend and there's non-accountability, sometimes you'll let them get away with it. Because they're your friend, you understand. Oh God, one of my writing partners' husband passed away. So for 6 months, nothing happened. Not a word was written. We all climbed in the wagon. And the emotional support was necessary, but we didn't all have to stop writing. But we all quit. When one of my co-writers sort of got into, don't know how to describe it. She just sort of froze creatively and professionally. She was so unsure of what to do next that she froze, and we didn't demand anything of her. And it really slowed our process and ultimately damaged the friendship. It does put strains on the friendship when it's like going into business. You are going into business with somebody. It is going to put strains on your friendship because sometimes you may feel like you're one on the bicycle, but the other person feels like they're on the bicycle too. And actually, maybe nobody's pedaling. The resentment and jealousy, a whole lot of, some of that happens. Yeah, I'm interrupting your writing. I'm sitting at the dining room table. I've got earbuds in my ears. There is not a sound on, and people come in and start talking to me. Like, you are grown adults. Make your own grilled cheese sandwich. But I was paying attention to something else. And for 17 years, these little creatures had been my focus. And all of a sudden, I had something else to do. And they felt it. Maybe I would beg off of family events. No, I don't need to go to every dinner all the time. I have a deadline. Well, does she just not like us anymore? Not when you ask me that question, I don't. So you're going to have to, and some of this is balance too. You have to learn to balance it. And I'm better now. But when I started, I didn't realize nobody's going to completely understand that I have a new dream. I have a new goal, and it isn't just being a mom or cooking grilled cheese sandwiches. What do you mean you have plans with your internet friends? Because I did meet my writing partners online. They weren't local. Nobody knew them. They're strangers. They're online. Are you sure they're women? I get that one a lot. Have you met them? Are you sure they're women? What if it's a serial killer? Everybody's a serial killer.
Can you write?
That's gonna start being my next question.
Yeah.
If he can whip out a manuscript in 30 days. Resentment from the inside. In my group, there were 3 of us. 2 of us really took the craft seriously. We grasped some of the concepts of romance writing. There is a bit of a formula. There is an expected ending. There is a way to do it. We looked at sort of the self-publishing marketing list of rules. We didn't know, so we're like, we're gonna sort of follow some of these pretty strict guidelines. And we wanted to get it, and one of us did not, and resented the bond that was formed and the friendship and sort of the understanding. And that affected the writing. It affected the productivity. Before you start co-writing, self-awareness is a big thing. Know how thin-skinned you are. Know how thin-skinned your writing partner is. And you may think you can take criticism, but when you hand your friend this great chapter and they go, yeah, that's great, doesn't belong in this book, and you start crying, and your jerk friend says, why are you crying? It's hard. And I was the jerk friend. I didn't realize when someone told me they could take any criticism, no, she couldn't. Great chapter, did a good job. Doesn't belong. Doesn't have anything to do with the book that we're writing. And she started crying. And I was shocked. Why are you crying? You're crying and writing?
I beg to differ.
Well, there is, but not at this point. I mean, we didn't have a full rough draft. This was chapter 2 or 3. You know, we weren't even near the crying stage yet. So one of the big lessons we learned, and it took us a long time. We took 5, 6, 7 years to get the first book done. Because we spent the first 18 months on the hamster wheel of mistakes. And then we spent the next 18 months correcting them and fixing and learning and figuring out what we did wrong. And then it was write and edit and correct and get the book out. So establish your ground rules early. Figure out where you are, lay the rules, and stick to them. Respect each other's differences, modify accordingly. And that's kind of hard, but kind of like being married. You learn. It's kind of like living together. You kind of learn, okay, I don't like your socks on the floor, but if it's really that big a deal to me, I can pick them up too. Or I don't like dishes left in the sink, but I know how to run the dishwasher too. And decide early which lines to cross or not. We did not cross the line of, you're not turning in your work. I don't care if it hurts your feelings or not. We didn't cross that line early enough with each other. So that was a big one for us. And that's why it took so long. Okay, does anybody still think they might want to co-write with somebody? I know Natalie Bright is on her second book, co-writing with somebody. Doing a great job. I know Phyllis, she's not here, but she has co-written with somebody. And I don't know if they're doing a blended style or each person taking a chapter. We did it the hardest way possible, trying to blend our styles, blend our writing, because we didn't know what we didn't know, the hubris of ignorance, I guess. Communicate early and often. That's a big one. And be honest. Is it going to be your career? That's what I decided I wanted. Or is it just a hobby or hang out with your friends? We were sitting there at about our third, was supposed to be a retreat, and the third writer sips back with her martini and says, you know, I don't really care if we ever finish. This is just a vacation for me. Where's she married? I think at that moment, I knew we are dead in the water. We as a collective are dead in the water. But we pulled that wagon until September of 2019. We just drug it backwards through the shrubbery. Yes. And I think most of this is pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to go really too long. This is a big one for us. What skills does each writer bring to the project? Be real honest. If you are great at description, not good at dialogue, own it. And don't be too proud to say, here's what I think the characters should be saying here, but it's very generic dialogue, and they all sound the same. Because your writing partner may have some great zingers to put in there. Like I said, I don't care what color the couch is, but it may be important to the scene because there's a big blood stain on it. And I've got a writing partner that's really great at description. And that comes in handy because I don't have an editor or critique partner or, God forbid, a reader say, oh, well, that was okay. So, communicate often, and honestly. What's more important, the book or the friendship? If the friendship is more important, just know going in that the book might not get written, or it may not get written the way you think it is. You may decide we're going to have to do 2 different projects. And that's gonna and be okay with it. You know, what's the old saying? You don't have to stick with a mistake just because you spent a long time making it. A contract. We did not do a contract until we were about 3 years in. And it was probably after I think of this as a vacation comment. 2 of us looked at each other and were like, oh, we need an exit strategy. And again, we spent 18 months making a mistake, 18 months figuring out how to fix it. And one of the things we really did is in our contract, when we finally made the contract, is we put in schedules, milestones, our own deadlines. We knew we were self-publishing, so we didn't have an editor or a publisher with a check sort of holding our feet to the fire. We had to do it for ourselves, but put those in there, make them realistic. If you think, oh, it's going to take me 3 months, give yourself another 30 days. Because it takes a little bit longer. It's kind of like remodeling your kitchen. Add another 10 grand in another 30 days. And have an exit strategy to save that friendship. I couldn't save my friendship. 2 of us are still writing together, but we could not save the friendship. Because we didn't do this right. We made the mistakes. And the friendships suffered, and it was hard. And by the time we finished the 2nd book, it was sort of the nuclear option at the end. We were so done, we couldn't enjoy the publication. Couldn't enjoy the little gold winner, award-winning sticker very much. So, save the friendship. Good things. No matter what, you are going to have to do your own branding. Whether you are traditional published, self-published, you're going to have to do that. And one of the good things about writing with somebody is you've got 2 or 3 audiences to access. If I'm writing with Misty, she has got a whole separate social media stream than I do. So leverage that, but also realize that whatever Misty posts on her Twitter feed reflects on me and vice versa. So you are now sort of, what's what I'm looking for?
Joined at the hips?
Yeah, kinda. Kinda. At least your professional face needs to be a unified front. And like I said, speak as one voice on joint platforms. We had a social media platform. And we agreed early on, no politics, no religion, because we were vastly different on those subjects. And it contributed to our writing. Until somebody broke the rules. And it happens. Figure out early how you are going to share your writing. It took us a long time to even figure out that we all need to be using the same writing software. A true story. We were not all using Word. We were not all using the same. I was on a great big Dell. One of my co-writer was on a Mac, and the third one, I don't even know what she was on. Well, you pass around the document enough times, there is no formatting to be found. None at all. And the last person to get it is, trying to go in there and redo it all. It doesn't happen. And it changes everything. And especially when you're trying to make corrections and make notes out to the side. So just save yourself some trouble in doing those kinds of little things that will help. And it will help with the communication too. Easy tools, Scrivener, Hemingway, Grammarly. Send them, share your drafts with each other as clean as you can get them. I could look at a draft and look at it for content and, this scene is supposed to get us from point A to point B. Neither one of my writing partners could do that if there was the inordinate amount of commas that I tend to overdo just when I'm drafting. So I'll run it through Grammarly and go, get rid of all of those. And then they're not pestered by my poor structure and can see, is the content there? Okay, both of these articles came out after, in 17 and in 18. There was one written in 07 about collaborative writing, and it was written by somebody who was, or I found it, doing sort of a fan fiction, sci-fi fantasy forum writing. Yay, it was great! But it was written in 2007, and they were sort of world building together. These were a little late to the game, but they're good sources. Joanna Penn and Ally. What's that stand for, Misty? What's Ally?
Independent author.
Independent authors. These are great. Both of these came from authors who had previously written independent works. So they came in sort of already knowing how to write a novel. We didn't know how to write a novel when we started. So we had to learn that together and learn it wrong and then learn it right. But as the notes say, we experienced every one of these in the presentation. Great article from Joanna Penn. We backed into some of these 5 tips for co-author collaboration. One of the best ones in this top 5 is find you a brutal editor. And these two guys the guys that wrote this article were writing a nonfiction, or maybe it was fiction, no, I think it was nonfiction. But they both sent in their pieces to this editor, and I think she hacked it to pieces because their styles were so different. And there was no way anybody was going to be able to read this. And finally, after enough times of her, chopping it up for them, they figured out a style. They both modified their style so that they could write a cohesive, co-written book together. So find somebody who will be, and I would say hire an editor, brutally honest with you, so that when somebody turns the page to the next chapter, they don't go, new writer. Because that's the last thing you want. That is the last thing you want. Yeah. Okay. If you got this far and you think you might want to write with your best friend or your sister or your mom or that person you met on the internet, it can happen. It can be great. You can be an award-winning author, and it doesn't have to take you 7 years to get there. So, good luck, and go make it happen. Any questions?
How often did y'all physically get together, like you said, the retreat?
When we first started doing it, we tried to do it about every 4 months, and that really got too expensive, especially if it was just a vacation. I'm not as bitter as I was 5 years ago about that. But it still sticks right out there. But then it was every 6 months, and now once a year. We are down to once a year when we've gotten it back from the editor. And we go through and go, oh, here's the problem scenes. We really need to be together, bounce those ideas off. There's a big plot hole right here, chapter 4. But once a year we'll get it done. Maybe now about once, because of kind of how slow we are getting things out. Once a year does it.
When you started, what were the, what supposedly did you require of each other in terms of word count submissions, and how often?
When we first started, we actually didn't require a word count or how often. It was, I'm gonna get this chapter done today. It was kind of episodic or scene, or hey, I have an idea. We didn't know. We really kind of need an outline. We need a pretty solid plot line here for this. We didn't know. And the way we did is the plan was each one of us would take the leadership role, writing sort of the main storyline, and figure out where the subplots were supposed to come in. And so then ask, hey, I need a scene right now that does one of two things. Because your subplot is either supposed to parallel or contradict your main plot line. So, hey, I need a chapter right now that shows how heroine B's career path is paralleling our main heroines. Didn't care exactly what it said, as long as that was the point of this chapter. And it worked a little bit, but once we really firmed up a plot line and things like that, it got better. And we didn't necessarily demand a word count, but when we started saying every day, something is going to be turned in, something is going to be submitted, then we started getting work done. Yes?
I don't have a question, but your program today was just so appropriate for me because, I mean, I just identified so much with so much that you put out there, and I'm a fiction writer, and I'm pretty off the wall everything, and I looked up a nonfiction writer, but it was really a hassle, and so I really appreciate what you put out there today.
Thank you. Thank you. You're not alone. You're not alone.
How did you find them on the internet?
Like I said, we were all writing Gerard Butler fan fiction, Mike, together on a fan site. And we were sort of writing round robin style, I guess is what it's called, where one person will set the scene. I guess it's grown middle-aged women Dungeons and Dragons, you know. Somebody set the scene, and we each took sort of our favorite movie character, and that's who we played. And then we would write sort of kind of soap opera, and there was several of them who were kind of rewriting Buffy the Vampire Slayer stories. You know, and you had to work with that when you open up your screen and you find out, oh, we now have vampires and witches in the story. Okay, so what do you do with that today? Yeah, theater improv. I was thinking about that last night. That's exactly what it's like. And you don't get to change. And oh, people complained. People complained so much. And of course it was women. Another thing is, I'm sorry, Misty, I won't take just 2 minutes. I asked my writing partner, we disagree on this. I said, do you think it has more to do with us being women or inexperienced writers? She thinks it has to do with, we didn't know what we didn't know. I think it had a whole lot to do with we're girls. I do. I don't see this happening between two men writers, and I don't see this happening between a man and a woman writer. I'm thinking right now, Rick, you may have to help me. Bob Mayer, he spoke at DFW Con last year.
I was not at DFW Con last year.
You weren't at DFW Con. Misty, you were though. Did you go to any of his stuff? He co-writes with the woman. They don't live close together. They do everything through email. They do write fiction. It works just fine.
So they say.
So they say. What was that? We don't see the angst, and that's fine with me. I do not want to know how the sausage is made. So they're pumping out books and they're selling books, and that's kind of what matters to me. So, yes, ma'am.
I just couldn't help thinking as you were describing this, and I'm a person who in the long past thought I might like to have a co-writer, and I'm kind of over it. But I thought about when you're in school and you're assigned a group project,
Mm-hmm.
and every person in the group has a different goal, not to mention different parts, but some people really need an A+ to help them get into college, and other people are saying, if I get out of this with a C, I'm going to be happy. And some people have jobs after school and would like to do more but can't, but it's just the adult version of that
Very much.
to me.
And
And
you volunteer
the
for
person
it.
who needs an A+ ends up rewriting everybody else's work or doing more research or whatever. But to me, it's almost exactly like that.
It very much can be if you don't set out early what is expected of everybody. And like I said, everybody's going to be in the wagon at some point because life isn't fair. But the point is don't stay there, and don't allow yourself to be stuck on the bicycle the whole time either.
Okay, you were talking about 3 people writing together.
Yes.
And in your version, they were all adding equal content. How feasible would it be for 2 people to write content and 1 people to put it into a style?
I think any form can work.
I mean, the third person is doing a lot of work because they're taking both content
Yes.
and making one
If the
voice out of it.
2 providing the content are willing to give up creative control a little bit, willing to have sort of their words chopped up, or yeah, it'll work. It's kind of like these 2 guys on the previous slide who had an editor that hacked their stuff up until it sounded like one voice.
gonna say, you just described the ghostwriter scenario. That's what someone does, they provide the content and the other person actually makes it into a story.
Okay, I think I'm out of time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, so, I wanted today to be a little bit like, let's get to know each other a little bit more and really become a group. So we're gonna play a little game, and I'm sorry, I know I'm gonna see faces like, ugh, game, but I like games. So this is what we're gonna do. I think everybody has pen and paper. If you don't, borrow one from your neighbor. You have 6 words. That's all you get to use. That includes I in the 6 words. You have to write the scariest story that you can come up with 6 words. And our lovely Mike here is going to be our judge. So, when you get your 6 words done, go drop it right here in front of Mike, and then we're going to take about a 10-minute bathroom break. Yes?
Is the story to be 6 words long, or can you only use those 6 words in writing a story of any length?
Only 6 words long.
All right.
That's all you get. 6 words. Economy of words here, people. Okay? And we have a little prize for the winner. We're going to read probably the top 3 or 5 or so, and then we'll have Mike pick. Okay?